It was Friday the 9th of March 2018. Little Johnny, the herd person, was up bright and early for the start of a new day. Little did he know that his life was about to be turned upside down, because today was the day that little Johnny would learn about rabies. Johnny had been having a torrid time with his favorite cow, number 69. This had been going on for 2 days now, and Johnny was starting to get worried. On Friday, during the regular visit to the Nyongani dip tank, Johnny drew the line and said enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
He ran to get expert help from the state vet services, but the animal sadly died.
Well, I guess he wasn't frothing for death.
The poor community were incredibly eager to take the meat for their own Friday Friday. But this worried the state vet due to the potential health-related interactions at the cow-human interface should the animal have died from an infectious zoonotic disease. Rabies was obviously high up on his DD list right now. With the help of his animal health technicians, the carcass was removed from the crush to prevent any further contact the community could make with the carcass, and the brain was sent off for further testing. State vet Steve now had to have a hearty one-on-one with Johnny about rabies.
Johnny, I think your cow's been exposed to a disease called rabies. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Have you been in contact with the animal, such as being licked?
I'm just a daydreamer.
No, doctor.
Good. It's important though that you go see a doctor and tell him that you've been exposed to a rabid animal as soon as possible.
Thank you, doctor.
Hello, Dr. Damon. I've been exposed to rabies and need treatment immediately.
Oh, sweeties, Johnny. Just pull on through when you're feeling sick, but for now I'm just going to give you this vitamin B injection.
But Vet Steve said I need treatment.
Don't listen to that guy, just listen to me.
Later that night,
You've got mail.
What? Oh, my word. It is rabies.
the next day, State Vet Steve started to think about how cattle in the Bushbuck Ridge area could be contracting this disease.
Is it coming from domestic dogs? Could it be from a wildlife species such as jackal or mongoose?
Or maybe it was just crazy Uncle Dave.
Get off my porch!
I wonder how this disease is spreading between species. Is it spreading between cattle and their human handlers? Between cattle themselves? Or between cattle and wildlife? Are they in contact with live animals? Or is it from them chowing down on a carcass?
State Vet Steve decides to use a One Health approach to the situation in Bushbuck Ridge. He identifies that he as a veterinarian is limited in his capabilities and decides to get specialized professionals from different fields to aid in his One Health concept.
Right, boys. Let's jump in.
From a cellular level, the drivers in the progression of the disease are dependent upon where the virus enters the body and the dosage of the virus. The incubation period can vary from 5 days to 2 years, making a clinical diagnosis extremely tough. The virus has a tropism for neural tissue, which can cause an acute encephalitis. To mitigate the disease at a cellular level, vaccination is the most key factor.
If a human is exposed to the virus, they have to receive the post-exposure prophylaxis protocol, and this needs to be injected with immunoglobulins into the wound, as well as not stitching the wound closed.
Rabies as an organism level has many drivers affecting disease transmission in a population. One of the main drivers in individual susceptibility is the immunity of a person to the disease, which is largely affected by vaccination status. Negative effects at an organism level of rabies is that once the animal or person contracts the disease, they will surely die.
Us as medical professionals definitely do not know enough about rabies and its effect on humans. Currently, medical students are only given one lecture on rabies, and it goes nowhere near in enough detail. Also, I missed that lecture.
So on a systems level, it's important to identify the important reservoirs of rabies in an area, the distribution of these, and the important factors like climate that determine these distributions. And then if we want to understand rabies on a human and livestock level, it's important that we understand the density and the areas of human populations and their livestock. And then lastly, The increasing human encroachment on wildlife areas has put a big conservation concern on various species, especially the endangered species like African wild dog, because if these contract rabies, it's very detrimental to their population and conservation status.
Speaking of wildlife, oral vaccinated baits has been used effectively to control rabies in wildlife overseas, and it's something to look forward to in South Africa in the future. Another thing is that the government can implement rabies education in junior and high school levels in areas that are endemic to rabies. And another idea that could possibly happen is that integrating a One Health approach to our CCS here, where doctors and vets could come together and help control zoonotic diseases effectively. Mitigating factors include trying to vaccinate at least 60 to 70% of the domestic canine population in and around the Bushbuck Ridge area, as well as the availability of post-exposure prophylactic treatment to the affected people.
I'd like to end by thanking our stakeholders. Sandparks with regard to preventing wildlife contact. The Department of Education in their education of the community about rabies. DAF aid with vaccinations campaigns, as well as training of animal health technicians. The Department of Health is responsible for training of doctors and on education on how to handle rabies contact.